Hey everyone, welcome to Tent Talk, the Farmers Market podcast. This is the show all about farmers markets, how to increase your market business success, and in the current climate, how to maximize safety while providing people with fresh food. Whether you're a farmers market manager or a farmer or food producer selling at farmers markets, this is the podcast for you. On today's episode of Tent Talk, we're talking about the current challenges that many markets are facing in the course of the COVID-19 concerns. Hey everyone, I'm Brijet Myers, one of your hosts here on Tent Talk, and I've spent many years as a market manager here in San Diego, and I'm the education coordinator at Farmers Market Pros.
I'm Catt White, Director of San Diego Markets, still an active Farmers Market Manager, on the days our markets are open at least, founder of Farmers Market Pros, and host of the Farmers Market Pros community.
And I am Justine Marzoni-Mead, the prodigal co-host of Tent Talk, and I'm happy to be back.
We're happy to have you back.
We are so happy to have you back. We're glad you have all this time on your hands now to come back to us.
I know it only took a global health crisis to bring me back to this podcast. So
there we go.
I'm
Silver lining.
guys.
She plays hard to get. That's what we're talking about today. Silver linings, pivoting.
Pivoting. Yep. The word of the day is pivot. And of course, we can't stop talking about the current public health emergency because it's pretty consuming for everybody in the farmers market world. Farmers, food makers, and market managers. And first, we want to assure you that no matter how today's conversation goes, we are taking this situation very, very seriously. People have lost loved ones. We're all having to make very difficult choices. People are out of work without enough information. And please understand that, like many people, we find humor as a way to cope. So if we sound a little sassy or we're making a joke from time to time, please bear with us. It's just a way to relieve a little tension. But rest assured, we are taking this seriously, and we know it's very real for many of you, just like it is for us. If you want to hear what's happening in various parts of the country or share what's happening in your area, we have terrific conversations and people sharing resources over in our private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros community. So feel free to come over. There are 3 qualifying questions that you'll have to answer to get in because we want to keep it just for people in the industry, and you can go ahead and join that group. And you can also message us on Instagram at Farmers Market Pros or email us at connect@farmersmarketpros.com.
Everybody knows that, right?
No, not everybody, because there's so many, there's .co and things like that. But yeah.
Oh, that's true. Okay.
Connect@farmersmarketpros.com.
All right.
All right.
We're still plugging away here in San Diego, even though our 3 markets are closed again right now. I don't know if you've been following our roller coaster episode. We were closed by the county. We were ordered open by the governor. The county said, okay, you can be open with 50 people. No, wait, with 10, including farmers and vendors.
Wah, wah.
It wasn't funny at the time, but got that turned around actually with the help of a lot of different people. The county is completely synced up with the governor now. We're considered an essential service. The city of San Diego said, we're not sure we think so. We submitted a plan. They actually let us open last Saturday. It went very well. Farmers and vendors and customers were very, very cooperative. And then there was a lot of kerfuffle in the city of San Diego that weekend with beaches and parks and what have you. And Monday morning, they approved our Tuesday market to operate. And Monday noon, they said, nope, all farmers markets in San Diego are off. And that's where we sit right now. And apparently, their message to us early in the week last week was, we hear you, and honestly, you're not at the top of our list. So just sit tight for a week and we'll get back to you. So we're hoping to have a conversation with them on Monday, right about the time you're probably listening to this. And we'll see how the story continues.
I can't believe the market was only a week ago.
I know.
It feels like yesterday, but also maybe like 4 years ago.
This whole situation feels like that. I was just thinking that. It was like
remember our amazing conference we had?
It seems like 10 years ago.
It does seem like 10 years ago, and it was less than 2 months ago. This situation, I mean, this is like raising children. Like the days are long, but the weeks are short or something. I don't know. It's so weird.
The hours are long, but the days are short.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I don't have kids, so I don't know, but it's freaking weird.
It is very freaking weird.
I just saw the funniest meme. Somebody said, all those kids that are going to be born 9 or 10 months from now, they're all going to be firstborns. And somebody said, and immediately the comments were somebody who doesn't have kids saying, I don't get it. And somebody who does saying, oh, I feel seen. For those of you homeschooling.
Yeah. No more babies. That's enough.
Those of you homeschooling.
I almost have like the gathering threshold at my house. So I'm going to have to pass some of these kids off pretty soon.
Yeah, too many people. One of these kids has to go.
Sending one to grandma's.
So we still think markets are important. So we're continuing to fight to get those open again here in San Diego. I know a lot of people are going through the same type of thing all over the country. At the same time, of course, one part of my brain says, or maybe it'd be better for all of us if we just didn't leave our house for a while. And so it's a quandary, isn't it, for everybody out there? This is not an easy time.
Nope.
On the other hand, long-term investment is, we really, really, truly do believe that if we don't let farmers sell the food that's harvesting right now, they're not going to plant anymore. And if we think we're in trouble now, let's try having a virus 4 to 6 months from now with no food. Bigger problem.
Yeah, so, I think we have to keep that long view kind of going when a lot of us are maybe saying, okay, let's just like stop everything right now. But when it comes to farming food, you can't just like stop right now and then pick it up again in 4 months and everything's good. Like farming's so continuous that those farmers have to be able to keep working in order for us to have food in 4 months. So just kind of remembering to keep that in mind. I know I have to keep remembering to like, okay, I need groceries. I'm definitely going to go get them, pick them up wherever the farmer is doing pickup boxes and get my food that way because I need that supply chain to keep active and to stay active this entire time. I need to think about 4 or 5 months from now and remember that, keep that in my mind. So
yeah, it's a lot of stuff to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
So luckily, we have this huge creative brain trust in farmers market people because farmers are always ready. I mean, the people are all worried about running out and hoarding. Most of our farmer friends are telling us, we're farmers. We're just prepared for things. It's like farmer/prepper. It's sort of these things go sort of together.
Yeah, they're pretty industrious.
They are. And they're clever and they're creative. Oh, this tractor isn't working? Give me that rubber band and that Q-tip. I'll get it under control. It's good to know farmers in an emergency, right? But market managers too, food makers, really small businesses are always having to make something out of nothing. Farmers market managers, we're creative. We're always having to deal with outside conditions and weather and what the new traffic law is and who's in a mood about being next to whom. So we're used to having to be creative. It's all good. So this is a good group to just, solve everything, save the world. We're doing it. Pivot
within the regulations that we're allowed to operate.
Right.
Yeah. So it's good that farmers are getting out and like creating partnerships with each other too. We've seen a lot of those kind of people come together, and it's been nice it kind of is bringing the farmers market community like closer together. I feel like I'm staying in closer contact with a lot of the farmers and food makers.
And other managers.
Other managers in San Diego who I know we talked about at the last episode, but we rarely kind of talk to them. We don't collaborate on a lot of things with other market managers. And some of them have been really great with, sharing ideas. And some of the markets in our area are open because they're out of our city. And so just checking out how they're operating and sharing those ideas and saying, hey, these farmers are usually at our markets and they really want to sell. Can they pop into your market? Do you have any room, even with your additional spacing? And so some of our farmers are kind of popping around to markets that are open. It's been really nice to see that community it's always been so strong, and just to see it really kind of come to fruition like this.
And, our job as marketers, generally speaking, we're trying to really encourage people to come to our markets. Not necessarily to another market, to our market, because that's where our farmers and vendors are. But right now we're doing a lot of cross promotion with, oh, hey, our market's closed today, but check out these 3 markets that are open. So cross promoting each other. I think there's a lot more of that going on right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, this whole situation is kind of shaking the foundations of just the way that people shop, the way that people purchase things, and who they're buying those things from. It'll be interesting, once we're allowed back to open our markets again, and once things get back to some semblance of normality, how shoppers' purchasing habits may change, or how they may be more willing to support small businesses or connecting directly with their food makers and farmers.
Yeah, that's been a real concern, I think, for all of us. With the first couple of weeks we were down, we were saying, oh, well, are people just going to think it's easier to shop online and maybe they wouldn't even want to come back to farmers markets? But that's not at all what we're hearing from our farmers and vendors or from our customers. They're figuring it out because that's what we do. We figure it out. But they're all saying, oh, but please get the markets back on. That was so much easier, so much more obvious. We all go to the same place. We all get together in the same spot. We all shop for everything at the same time instead of, I think Bridget's on full-time hunting and foraging now. It's she spends 3/4 of every day driving around to find one ingredient or another to feed her family.
Oh my gosh, just doing pickups. And then I've been picking up from some farmers that have just been loading kind of pre-made boxes into their truck and pulling up to different neighborhoods, and we just meet them on the street. Feels very like drug deal, like it's illegal.
Very illicit vegetables.
It's very illicit. But I've been posting like, oh, look at this beautiful box I just got or whatever. So then in the past couple of weeks, a lot of my friends have been texting me and contacting me and saying, hey, what is that produce? Like, can I get one of those boxes, or how do I do that? And so I've been picking up some extra boxes and having them on my porch for people to pick up. And it really is like my friends, I have a fair amount of friends that don't regularly shop the farmers market, wah wah. So as much as I've been trying to get them to come out, but now they're getting all this produce now because they don't want to go to the grocery store. And one of my friends came by, she got a box on Tuesday from me, and then I went again on Thursday just because I needed more stuff. I'm making soup and freezing it. And so I got her another box on Thursday, and she told me, my wife ate this strawberry and she couldn't believe it. It was like reminded her of the strawberries she used to have on her grandma's farm. And I swear this is the speech that like Catt makes at the conference every year. Like that's why people love shopping at farmers markets, because they can they taste produce in a way they've never tasted before. And she was like crying. She's like, I couldn't believe it. Like this produce is so good. I want 3 boxes a week the entire time this is like pandemic is happening. So, but it's kind of nice to introduce people to like you want good food right now and you want to take care of your body. This is a good way to do it, and to get creative in the kitchen because we have a little more time for that. So you can get a produce box that has turnips in it, or spicy greens, or something you might not pick up if you're at the grocery store, or even if you're just shopping the farmers market, and you can get creative with that stuff. So as market managers and farmers and vendors, we can kind of get that messaging out to shoppers saying, hey, like this is a good time for you to get introduced to this if you don't usually shop the market. And it's a good way to support local farmers and local food makers, and also change your eating habits, while you're at it. So,
and it's been cool too. Didn't you have like 11 or 12 boxes the other day stacked up on your patio for people to pick up? So you're not only
I picked up 2.
Yeah, Justine came over and picked up some.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're not only doing illicit veggie buys, but you're actually a veggie pusher now. Is that what you're saying?
It's like a pirate CSA.
Yes. Right. It's Bridget's Black Market Produce Porch Pickup Paddling.
Oh my, say that 5 times fast. That's great for the farmers though. I mean, if everybody ordered a box, would get friends and neighbors and order a bunch of boxes, because these, especially the smaller farms, there's some farmers that already have CSA systems and delivery systems in place, but these folks that have just been pushed into this off the edge, like the rest of us have into life, they're not really set up for this. And so it's really hard for a smaller farmer, especially, to have the bandwidth to go deliver to each of his customers' homes. This is a big new workload that they weren't planning on. So when you're ordering a box from a farmer, if you can pick up some extras and do a pool together with your neighbors and friends, so they only have to make one stop to serve 11 customers, that's a much easier deal for them. And I think that's what we kind of have to all be about right now, is market managers are the helpers, and we have to help our smaller farmers and our older farmers and people that aren't really used to pivoting quite as tightly to keep going, so that they're still there when the markets get going again.
Especially because market managers play this really important role between shoppers and farmers and food makers, and they're this like liaison. I think that market managers are so vital right now, even when markets aren't open, because they can communicate to the public on behalf of the farmers and food vendors in a way that, we've talked about this lots of times. A lot of farmers aren't great on social media or with newsletters or with interacting directly with the people that shop with them each week, but market managers oftentimes have a better handle on those things, so they can be a support or kind of this connector between people that are looking for groceries and farmers who are having to be really creative in the ways that they're getting their food out.
Yeah, it's really good. So social media is so tricky right now too, even for farmers market managers, because we're promoting people that we wouldn't necessarily always promote in terms of other markets and things. We're also having to put out the word about farmers doing so your deliveries that you're picking up on the side of the road from a farmer and taking to your patio, do they fall under the strictest permit requirements? Maybe not. And since we're the ones that hold a permit, so we could be penalized if it looks like we're promoting that kind of thing, we have to be really careful. So we're kind of sharing all of our farmers' stuff, but we can't really say, hey, get this kind of bogus, unpermitted quote unquote CSA down the street. So it's really tricky on social media because we don't know if the county inspectors are reading our Instagram. There's a good chance. So we have to kind of be careful about that. So it's tricky. We're being really careful right now to never, where we'd normally run all these beautiful pictures that we have of very full streets at our farmers markets, we're being really careful to not run any pictures of the farmers market aisles full of people because we're trying to convince the city and county that we can run a really empty market. Like that should be a goal. It's so weird, but that's where it is right now.
Yeah, it's
we're doing the
inverse
opposite.
Everything.
Yeah, we're doing the opposite of everything. Like Poway Market here in close to San Diego is open today, and I was just looking at their Instagram before we started recording, and they have really great pictures of people that are standing in line 6 feet apart. So like their street looks almost empty, but if you look closely, you can tell people are in line. They're just really spaced out, and I was just so excited. And I literally have never been excited looking at a picture of a farmer's market with like scarcely any people in the street. Like I'm usually like, oh no, I'm not going to share that. Or, oh, that market looks like it's not like it should have some more people in the street there. But it's weird. It's like, oh, okay, this is our new kind of adjusted normal. So we need to be talking about how farmers markets can function without having shoulder to shoulder people down the center aisle. So just keeping that in mind.
It's just a new thing. Justine, so you're in a kind of an interesting position on your other side. You have a hot sauce company.
Yep.
And so a lot of the reformatting of farmers markets right now has been to extract the fun in order to keep the crowds down and to maintain our position as essential services in terms of getting fresh food out and essential groceries. So, we have a bread baker, but we might not, since we don't have as much room because we have to spread everybody out, we're losing when we do have a market open, half to 2/3 of our booth spaces so that we have room so that people can space out. And we're really just kind of paying attention to essential farmers and grocery items like bread, but maybe not cupcakes, that kind of thing. Now, personally, Brijet and I both think that hot sauce is an essential food item, especially when some of us are eating canned and packaged things that we would not normally be eating in real life. So we consider that essential, but I would imagine that some farmers market managers don't have room for hot sauce. That's not necessarily considered an essential thing. So from a food maker's position who has relied on farmers markets to bring business to your grocery item, I mean, how are you dealing with that? I'm sure you feel a little bit, I know at least some of our vendors definitely feel a little bit pushed out and abandoned.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't feel pushed out and abandoned. But Dave, my husband, and I talked about this when we heard like some markets maybe opening up, and we just kind of decided that right now for us, we just didn't really know enough about the health crisis or what all the different variables at play in that. So we kind of just decided that we didn't want to participate right now, just for like a safety measure, that it was just an additional thing that we didn't really want to have to worry about. Because we have a raw perishable product that we make a few times a week specifically for markets. And then we have other shelf stable products that have been produced, a couple months ago. So we are still selling online, and we've done a fair amount of online sales in the time since markets have been closed. But we just decided that, we think that markets should be open when they're ready to be open, but really just mostly service farmers and people that maybe are making, like a farmer has things growing that they planted weeks ago prior to this. And, if they don't sell it at a market, it might go to waste. So we kind of just felt that those spaces should be saved for market or for farmers. So, but I could definitely see how other vendors selling grocery items are kind of in this pickle of like needing to continue to have income. They likely have employees that they need to pay, and this is a really tight spot for them. We were in a really lucky position where we don't have any other employees besides us, and we were able just to say, we're going to take a break from the markets until we have a better handle on what's going on. But it was an easy decision for us to make, but I could see how it would be a lot more complex for a different vendor.
Yeah, we're hearing both sides. So we've got like a crepe vendor that just keeps saying, I need to get back in. I need to make a living. I have kids. I have to be in there. And we can't do prepared food here when we're open. Even the markets that are open aren't doing any prepared food. And then I've got other vendors like you, Justine, who say, well, you know what, my product's shelf stable. It's going to be fine when we get through all this. I actually have an online setup already, so I can sell. I'm already got it figured out. It's not something new I need to do. Let's save the space for those folks that need it more. And we've had a lot of vendors that have just been very gracious about that. But it's a tough call, and it's tough to decide what is essential. I kind of do think hot sauce is essential.
I do too. I mean, I eat hot sauce and everything, but in the same way that some of these farmers have gotten really creative with these kind of like pirate CSAs or delivering farm boxes, there are a lot of grocery vendors that have gotten together to do grocery box delivery, where it's kind of like there's a vendor that's doing sauerkraut and yogurt and all of these items. And for us, we are kind of just taking this time to hibernate a little bit. But I know a lot of other grocery vendors that are getting really creative with the way that they're getting their products out too.
Yeah, and that's something we can do as farmers market managers too, is try to kind of just facilitate connecting people and seeing if 2 or 4 or 8 vendors can work together so that, I don't think you can afford to make a at-home delivery to everybody who wants to buy a jar of hot sauce. It's just not practical or cost effective. But if there's a group of you and somebody's making at-home deliveries to somebody with a variety of products, so that time and that overhead is shared, that can work better. And I think market managers are in a good position to maybe know which vendors are going to need some support to get their stuff out there and connecting them with other vendors. So the other thing, when you're social messaging, we have a lot of people, when we post something that says the market's closed today in cooperation with the city's order, we have a lot of people that either come back with real quick suggestions like, well, you should just gather all the produce and deliver it to people. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be fun. But our permit doesn't allow it. We only have so much bandwidth too. We actually have no income. So you have to explain that to people, and kind of over and over to a lot of people, but explain it. It can be really helpful if you take the time to explain that sort of calmly but briefly. Gosh, that's a really creative idea. We know people working on that kind of thing. We don't actually have a permit that allows that, because a lot of people have no idea what it takes to run a farmer's market. So maybe this will be kind of an interesting and productive learning time for the general public to realize how much goes into creating a safe market that complies with local laws, and how much bandwidth we have. We're not a big grocery store. We don't have enough employees to deliver things, even if we were permitted to do that. So explaining that kind of thing is good. And then we'll have people that pop up with comments like, what the heck is the city thinking? What's wrong with them? How can they not want markets open? And so again, we don't really want to trash talk the people that give us our permits or that make these decisions about our livelihoods. And we're honestly sympathetic that the city has a million different issues that they're dealing with. It's not just about us. It feels to us like it's just about us, but they've got a lot of things that they have to consider in terms of keeping most of their constituents safe. And they're having to look at a whole bunch of different situations every minute. How do we deal with hospital access? How do we deal with transportation? So it's not just farmers markets for them. And it's probably to our advantage and part of being in that good helper to explain that to people briefly, but in a way that lets them know that we're also sympathetic to everything that the city's having to deal with, that we really want to get the markets open, and we truly believe it's the safest way to shop. And let's just wait and see, and let's keep working towards the greater goal, and trash talking is probably not all that helpful.
Yeah. And actually the city of San Diego, at least, even though they've been shutting us down, then reopening, then shutting us down, then who knows what, I have found their communication to be, they've been polite, and they've
Yeah.
been like listening, and they've answered most of our questions, and they did take the time to have a discussion with us and to take a look at our plans and things. And like, I think that they are just busy with a million other things, of course. And so them just listening to our concerns and having the conversation, even if they didn't decide to do what we were asking them to do, they've still been kind of gracious in that way. So kind of keeping that in mind, that like, instead of us versus the city, like, let's be in partnership with the city and be patient and kind of be flexible,
Right.
So yeah.
And then what other kind of, so then I think maybe the last challenging thing that we're all having to handle on social media is the occasional hater. So we'll say, oh my gosh, and some of them, right?
Some of them are bored. Some of them need to go back to work so they can get on their computer.
They're just at
Right.
home.
Some of them, I think, are operating out of fear and just
Yeah.
kind of freaking out. And then some of them are just, you're right, too much time on their hands. They are trolls by nature, and they're just got nothing else to do. But we're seeing a lot of this in the Facebook group too, that we're not the only ones for sure. In fact, we've gotten it less than some markets that I know of, where just long list of comments on their Instagram post about, what are you thinking? You're irresponsible. You're trying to kill people. And so again, just taking the time to type it into your notes so that you can copy and paste it over and over. Because if you have to create these answers every time, you're going to wear yourself out. But, we have a kind of a standard response that we edit to address any particular thing that somebody says. But it's, we honestly believe that farmers markets are the safest place to shop. It's one-touch shopping. These are not the farmers markets you're used to. It's not wall-to-wall people. It's farmers and groceries only. You're in the open air. All the good things about shopping at farmers markets. You can get nutrient-dense food that is probably not coming in all those cans. So you just have to reply back to them. Some of them will say, okay. Some of them will say, agree to disagree. Some of them learn something. Some of them continue to troll. And then I think you just have to move away, stop engaging.
Yeah, some of them get into arguments with our other shoppers who do want the market to
Very
be open.
much.
So then they go at it with each other. And it's like, I don't really want those kind of confrontations on our page under any circumstances. And especially now, I feel like it just kind of muddles the messaging when those kind of like crazy conversations are happening. So I don't delete things, like I don't delete comments. It's just one thing that we don't do on our pages. But I do, try to kind of tamper it down a little bit and then like let it be. And like sometimes if someone's sticking up for us like really feverishly, I have done this a couple times, is just message them and be like, hey, thank you so much for supporting us. I don't think that guy's going to drop it. And it's okay if you do drop it, and just let's let it fizzle out.
That's a good idea. So Justine, you're when you're not on podcasts with us or editing podcasts or making hot sauce, I mean, you're a PR professional. Is it a good idea to delete comments? Is it a good idea to respond? It's not, right?
You should not delete comments. Yeah.
Right.
I would it sounds like you guys are really doing the right thing of kind of just letting people have the conversations that they're going to have. And when it kind of gets to a point where you could step in and just say like, hey, agree to disagree, or kind of just something to diffuse it, or just thank them for engaging with your post. I mean, the reality is the more comments and engagement your post is getting, that is beneficial to you, even if these people perhaps are not the most informed, or if their opinions are maybe a little bit fringe. But I think that is a really great tactic if somebody is getting, is on your side, but they're getting a little aggressive, just reaching out and just saying, hey, thank you so much. We appreciate your support. Please, continue to shop with us, but, cool it out on our comments. So I think I think that's a really good point. And I think especially right now, having those conversations on social media, that's where people are spending their time. I mean, we already spend a lot of time online, but right now when people are unsure, they have a lot of time on their hands, they may be out of work or working from home. I think just continuing to have, continuing to post, even if it's just like, we don't know what's happening right now. As long, I've been doing this to very consistently, checking to see if businesses are open on Instagram before before deciding to leave my house. I'll check and see if they've posted about something. We actually go to a water store in North Park, and Dave went there the other day and they were closed. And so I was like, oh, they have an Instagram. So I've just been checking their Instagram every day and today they are open. So I think for market managers, I'm sure right now it's really hard because things are changing day to day. But even if you don't have a whole lot to say or a whole like many updates, I think just continuing to post and maybe, do a flashback Friday or say like, we're really looking forward to, you know, this season that's coming up in the future, but just continuing to engage with your audience, even if you don't have an answer for them at the moment, I think is helpful just so people don't forget about you. Or I don't know. I think that continuing to put stuff out there, not capitalizing off the current situation, but just reassuring that you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because some businesses have said, we're closing for good. Like, this is too much. We have to close our doors, which is just so depressing. And then some people are saying we're just putting a pause on things. And so I think it's important to make that distinction as for a market or for a farm or a food maker. If you're taking a break or if you're forced to take a break, it's good to stay kind of at top of mind and post things like, hey, we can't wait to get back, like you were saying, or we're still on a break. We're not closed down forever. Like, this is just happening right now and we will be back and we're not going anywhere. So kind of reminding your shoppers and your vendors and farmers, like, don't worry, when things settle down, we'll be back,
Yeah,
it's important. So some people actually there's some managers that have gone like way creative to set up drive-through farmers markets and online ordering and all that stuff. And so we're going to talk next episode actually about, is that the market manager's job? And if so, how much bandwidth does that take? And the nuts and bolts of how you do some of those things. So we're podcasting nowadays on Zoom. I mean, because all of us in America, and probably the world over, I guess, are Zoom experts now, right?
That's right.
Does anybody get dressed below the waist anymore? No,
I'm not.
I've just been wearing pajamas for like 3 weeks. So.
Yeah.
I did go out in public today. I had to go pick up my stuff at Dolly Ranch. And I did go to Bivouac, our local cidery, to go get cider. So I had to put pants on.
Did you take orders for cider?
I didn't get a cider order form.
I didn't either. Come on.
It was a last minute. I just drove by and I pulled over because they had a big tent out in front of the restaurant and they had their doors open. Like, it's kind of good that they did that, because I was like, oh, I can just pull up. And I pulled up and I just shouted into the restaurant. I had talked to the owner yesterday because her and I are friends. But I was like, oh, I'm going to come by. And she's like, yeah, come by. And then I was like, pulled over to the side of the road and was like, I want to get some cider. And then they brought me out a couple cases and it's so good.
I do appreciate how lax the alcohol
this is hilarious.
Like,
right?
you can,
I don't know about the rest of the country, but that was the funniest order I've ever seen, is when somebody sent me a thing and said, check this out. They're closing groceries. I mean, they're trying to figure out what to do with grocery stores. They're closing farmers markets. But hey, ABC just said it's all fair game when it comes to alcohol. Cocktails to go? You betcha.
No, there's a place by my house. I see it when I go on a run, and I actually might do this after my run today. But you can bring in your own pitcher and they'll fill it to go.
I mean, that's nice that this is allowed to happen.
So we're super, super cautious, except that we have also now morphed into Vegas.
Or New Orleans. Yeah.
Yeah.
New Orleans. Yeah. Oh, wow. Crazy. So what we want to do next week, for next week's episode, so we'll be recording that sometime this coming week, is we're going to give a shout out to y'all who have set up delivery options or online pre-orders or drive-through markets. And we can add a few people to this Zoom, and we'll just have a little conversation with some of you on how the logistics work on that, how you figured it out, or what you've discovered. Save some of the rest of us reinventing the wheel, and we're going to have a good talk about that. So we'll be reaching out to you in the Facebook group, or if you would like to join that conversation, pop us an email, and we'll get a gang on here next week.
Yay.
I have questions for them.
Okay. Yeah,
do you see Pepper Place Market?
No.
They're doing like an actual drive-through. Like, you drive your car.
There's a couple of them doing that. Yeah. I saw somebody else doing that. East End Market, I think, is doing that. And they like you pull up and you pop your trunk and they run over and put your box in your trunk.
I mean, as a mom with young kids, I wish that farmers markets always had this feature.
Same.
Although, same, even without young kids, because no one wants to get out of their You don't have to put your regular clothes on. You just stay in your sweatpants, pull up to the market.
Just put a blanket over your lap.
Yeah.
It's wild. So I want to see. So I didn't know Pepper Place is doing that. Maybe we'll get Lee back on here. But yeah, I was fascinated by that. And again, it's one of those things where the world is all playing opposites now, because didn't we used to sort of be the opposite of drive-through food?
Yeah. I mean, we're now McDonald's. Well, and I just have like some logistical questions about the market. Just because I'm curious how they're getting paid, because we pay like booth fees. So are the farmers paying to have like their produce boxes there so they can run over to people's trunks? And like, is that enough money to pay for a market staff? Like, just being practical about it, because we have to pay staff and insurance, and then you pay to rent barricades and all this kind of thing. So how is this happening? Or maybe it's just the Wild West and everyone's just out there because they're bored, or I don't know. So I have some questions for people that are doing that for sure.
Me too. And I think a lot of people do. So I think that'll be really valuable, because I think there's a lot of us that would love to set up completely alternative programs, but how do we fund that? And how do permits relate to that? And where do you get a big old street and a bunch of cones? I don't know. Well, I guess we have those because we're in markets, but still, I mean, for us, we would have to back them up on the city street, I think. But we've got some ideas, and we're hoping that doing a podcast with several of you who figured this out will be helpful to many of us who are trying to figure it out.
Yes.
Right?
Let's do it. Let's talk.
Okay.
All right. Everyone tune in next week for sure. All right. Well, thanks a lot, ladies. This was a lovely...
Oh, I was just going to say, how can people find us? What can they do in the meantime?
Yeah,
Where
for
should
sure.
they go?
Well, definitely our Facebook community group. I know not every single person is on Facebook, but sorry, that's where we are, and that's where we're talking about this. So please do join us on the Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros community. You can also email us. Catt is always on her email, so she loves to email with people. Even though we tell her to get off and take a nap, she doesn't. So go ahead and send her an email at connect@farmersmarketpros.com. And then follow us on our Facebook page and our Instagram at Farmers Market Pros. Like, tag us in your posts if you're doing, if you're getting creative with your market. Please tag us so we can take a look, and like we'll repost it, and follow us in our stories. We're just kind of posting there as much as we can.
Oh yeah, tag us in your stories, because that makes it so much easier for us to spread your story.
Yeah, it's just nice to because then other market managers can see it, and we can all kind of share these ideas. Or if you have questions about things, let us know, and we can post that, and people can kind of have a chat there. So let's use this time to kind of come together more as a community for sure. Right. Yeah, we'll just keep talking about this in our Facebook groups and emails and our email newsletter.
And remember, we helpers have to take care of ourselves too, in order to keep helping. And this is the pot calling the kettle black and all that, because my team keeps saying, could you sleep? Like a little, could you sleep? So I want to tell all of you, wash your hands, don't touch your face, get some sleep. We're all in this together, just not too close together.
Just very far apart.
6 feet apart, at
6 feet apart.
6 feet apart.
My mom keeps saying 6 feet apart is better than 6 feet under.
Aww.
She's kind of morbid.
That's cute and morbid.
Yeah. Ew.
That's why I get my warped sense of humor. So
I like it. She's right.
She is right. I mean, she's right. Let's all make shirts that say that. It's just that's what's happening.
That's right.
All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much. And thanks for listening to Tent Talk. Please leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you're accessing podcasts these days. And tell us how you're enjoying Tent Talk. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss the next episode. And like we said, if you want more farmers market tips and information, you can subscribe to our weekly newsletter at farmersmarketpros.com, and follow us on Instagram at farmersmarketpros. And to exchange information and ideas with us and other farmers market professionals, answer the 3 qualifying questions, and join the private Facebook group, the Farmers Market Pros community. This podcast is produced by Farmers Market Pros, where passion meets profit. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Justine Marzoni Mead. Original music by David Mead. Thanks so much for listening.